Hey guys, so in the previous video, we covered the problem statement, what it entails, what we've got to build. From this video onwards, we're actually going to delve in and start solving this 4R case. We're going to build the model. So let's begin, right? So just a small caveat before we start. So I'm going to heavily use a lot of Excel shortcuts here, and I'm going to voice out what those shortcuts are as much as I can, just so a lot of people who aren't very comfortable with Excel shouldn't feel like it's going a little too fast or like, how did something happen, right? So bear with me, we're going to do that. So now you see there's no tabs given to us, right? That's just the problem statement. So we're going to have to build out a lot of the tabs. So let's build out a new tab, right? So Shift F11 is the shortcut for starting a new tabs right over there. Alt H O R is the shortcut for renaming it. Let's rename it unit economic. Let's name it unit model, right? Let's name it at the top, unit model. Okay, but let's increase the size. Let's first make this bold, Control B. Let's increase the size, Alt H F S. Let's make it 19. Let's keep an underline below, Alt H B O, right? Have it underlined. Let's remove these grid lines, right? They look awful. So Control Shift and G removes all grid lines. So if you remember in the case, right, we had, and the shortcut to shift tabs is Control page up, Control page down. That's what I just did, right? So if you remember, we've got to build a monthly model for 5 years, right? So that's 60 months. So let's first just build like the columns for that, right? So one, this. So I'm going to press Control Alt and page down, which just helps me drag and drop this. And Control R will suffice. Okay. I'm going to add a row. So I just press Shift and space bar. I'm going to add a row. So that's going to be Control Shift plus. Now let's call each month, say month 1 or month 2 or month 3, right? Let's use that terminology. So concatenate M space. You know what? Actually, let's not leave a space. Let's do it this way. Yeah. Select this. Format this. Copy, which is Control C. Paste, Control Alt V, and then just paste the formats. Copy and paste these values. So Control C, Control Alt V values. Now we can remove this. Now we have this, right? So what are we going to cover in the unit model, right? First, we're going to have profit and loss assumptions, from which we are going to build the profit and loss statement, right? So let's just make it in green. Let's make it bold. Let's make this white in color. Once we have the profit and loss statement, assumptions, what are we going to build, right? We're going to build the profit and loss statement. Correct? And the same thing we're going to do for the balance sheet. Same thing we're going to do for the cash flow statement. Same thing we're going to do for the debt schedule, right? And later on, we can add ratios if required. So let's just add one more column. So I press Control spacebar and now Control Shift spacebar. That just adds another column. Keep an X over here so it's easy to jump between all of these. Select these. Let's center align them. Okay, so then you can just jump Alt HOW, change the column width, make this small. To okay. So let's begin with the revenue, right? Some rows here. Let's call it assumption. Format this. Right. So what are the line items that we're going to have to build, right? Let's start with revenue. So just another X here for the same reason. Once we add more and more line items, just to jump between them will become easier. So what are the revenue items, right? There's dine-in revenue and there's delivery revenue. Let's begin with dine-in revenue, right? So let's call it dine-in revenue, right? So the number of days of operations in a month is 30. The number of hours of operations daily is 12. And it doesn't seem like this is going to change, or they don't want us to assume that this will change. So that's fine. Let's just copy paste this. Okay. Alt HOI changes the column width. Say in month one, let's just link this, right? So let's press plus, control, space bar, control page down, just link it to this cell. Before we press enter, press F4. So we lock the cell. Let's just drag this down, but then because it's locked, we're gonna have to relink this, right? So to 12, that's locked. So look, the number of days of operations in a month, the number of hours of operations daily is not going to change. So it's safe to say we can drag and drop this for the entire period of the 60 months. So let's just control C. Okay, let's just go to these two cells, press control C, press control up to go to M1, control side to go all the way to M60, go to cell 8, 9, press shift down, press control shift left, sorry, the next one, press control shift left, and just press control R. It'll drag and drop. That's it. These are the shortcuts. You know how to do it right now. Okay. So let's add some more rows. What's the next line item, right? So seating capacity, let's just copy paste these line items. Seating capacity, number of seats, average occupancy per hour, average number of items sold per seat occupied, average revenue per item sold, right? So let's just first link it to the first cells here. Just drag and drop this. Let's just change the format to percentage over here. Average number of seats occupied. Let's just change it here. Average revenue per item sold. So let's first compute revenue in month one, right? Like what is revenue going to look like from dine-in? So dine-in revenue, right, is going to be what? It's going to be, so let's start with 1 day, right? 1 day of operation. How many hours a day is this restaurant open? It's open for 12 hours a day, right? 12 hours a day, very simple, nothing complicated. How many seats does this restaurant have in terms of dine-in? It's got 100 seats, correct? Of those 100 seats, on average, every hour, 20% are occupied, which means in a given day, in a given hour, out of the 120 seats are occupied, but I'm open for 12 hours. So on average, 240 seats get occupied, right? 20 into 12 over the course of 12 hours. Now for every seat that was occupied over these 12 hours, we are being asked to assume that the number of items sold per seat occupied is 2. So assume that in each seat you had one individual sitting and each individual ordered 2 items every time they sat at that seat and ordered and enjoyed the dining experience, right? And let's assume after that, or rather we've been asked to assume that the average revenue per item for each of these items is 150 bucks, right? So we have 72,000. Now, this is a revenue earned in one day, right? Well, how? You operated the restaurant for 12 hours, you had 100 seats, of which 20% were occupied every hour. So 20 into 12 is 240 seats occupied in a given day. Every seat people every seat that was occupied bought two items. So 240 into 2, 480 items were purchased in a given day. And each item had an average revenue amount of 150. So 480 into 150, roughly 72,000. Now this is for a given day, right? Now, but we operate up unit of discourse for this model at this stage is a month, right? So we've got to multiply it by the number of days of operation. That will be nothing but that everything that we've done so far into 30. Yep. So we have about, it's bigger, 21 lakhs, right? Now this is for the first month. Now we've discussed why both these line items are not going to change. However, these line items, right, could potentially change. So how are they going to change, right? Let's just add some level of structure to how we think about how they could change. So let's just add a couple of rows here, here. Okay. Seating capacity is 100, right? When you start off, let's say it doesn't increase, because think of it, right? When you buy a restaurant, or when you set up a restaurant, 3,000 square feet or whatever the capacity, you have fixed space. You can't just keep adding seating area, right? So assume this will not change over the life of this restaurant. So let's assume just 0, right? To make things simple. Just using some macros that I have covered in depth in the Excel course. So watch the course. It'll really help you come up the curve if you're not really up the curve in Excel, but otherwise, yeah, just follow through with me. So let's say over the life of this restaurant, or over the life of the model, right? 60 months, number of seating capacity doesn't increase. It's just this each month. This next is average occupancy per hour open, right? So what have they told us? They're telling us that this metric taps out at 42% in month 12. That's the maximum that it can achieve, right? So why is that? Because when you start off, there'll be a new restaurant, people don't know about it. You're going to have to spend time marketing the restaurant and tell people that this restaurant exists. Please come and buy from our, please come dine in, please come order. So there will be like a ramp up curve. So let's just say increase in occupancy, right? Let's say it increases at 1%, or let's say it increases 2% a month for every month up until month 12. So month 12, let's just keep this at 2, and then let's just say increases at a 0% rate, right? Then we will do this. It will tap out at 42% in month 12, like the problem statement asks us to. So yeah, that's fine. Let's just format this single decimal. Right? Next thing is average number of items sold per seat occupied. Now think of it, right? This number is not typically going to change too much. So let's just add like a growth rate way of increasing it, but let's assume it doesn't increase, because think of it, right? Like typically the kind of people that come to your restaurant, whoever comes, right? The demand pattern that I get, people are going to eat a certain amount. They're not just going to keep ordering more and more and more, right? So let's assume, I mean, we can change this later. It's completely up to you as well, how you want to see it. But just for the sake of simplicity, let's assume this doesn't increase. Stays at 0%, right? Let's say this stays at 0% for the life of the entire model. This, oops, sorry. No. One plus this, yep. Format this, okay. So you might ask me, why have I added the increase in occupancy here and why is this a growth rate, right? That's because occupancy itself is a percentage to which I'm augmenting. So 20 is becoming 22%, is becoming 24, it's becoming 26, it's becoming 28. Here, this is a number and this is like a growth amount. It's not an increase amount. So just in case you get confused there, don't be why. An average revenue per item sold. So let's just say we're going to increase it annually at a rate of inflation of say 5%. So just say inflation, right? Let's just call it growth in price. Let's assume every 12 months the price increases by 5%. Through it, like it increases by 5% and then it stays, the prices stay constant for the next 12 months. So this, it will be 0% from month 2 to month 12. Month 13, it will be 5%, right? And then the same stuff all the way till month 25, right? Then we can just copy paste this. Month 25, month 37, month 49, month 60. Yeah. So it's just, let's copy paste this formula, right? Control C, Control V, Control C, go drag and drop this. Formatting. We had this, right? Now we just, to compute Dine revenue for each month, we just drag and drop this. And you're seeing hashtag everywhere, right? Why is that the case? That's the case because the number is pretty big vis-a-vis the size of the column. So just press Control spacebar, Alt H O I. We will be fine. Let's just format this, make it Alt H O P, Alt H O. Oh, sorry. Let's just add like borders to this, right? Alt H B O, Alt H B P, right? And let's just add a color so we know that this is bottom line item. Okay, so we've computed Dine revenue so far. Next video, we're going to compute delivery revenue and then compute total revenue. And then we're going to take it on from there. See you guys in the next video.
Hey, thanks a lot for watching the video. Hope you found it useful and also got a few actionable insights.
Check out our website and join the mailing list for regular content. Do spread the word and share it with anyone else you think might find this useful.